Welcome to the podcast. Chris Graham here. We're going to talk some UVA baseball, obviously. Okay, so starting out, if you're listening on the MP3, you download the MP3 podcast and you're doing audio only, you can't see this, obviously, but if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, all right, I'm going to sit up here for a second. I'm wearing a shirt. You see O'Connor's Army there, and I'll try to pull it up here a little bit. Uh, I got this last year at the College World Series. One of the things you do when you go to the College World Series, if you're a UVA fan, is you make a trek to Barry O's. That's the bar that Brian O'Connor worked at when he was in college. He played baseball at Creighton. He actually pitched in the College World Series. If you're watching this podcast, you know all this stuff. Um, but I just want to acknowledge I know it too. Okay, so Barry, he worked there during college. You know, baseball players don't get until next year. They won't even get they never got a full scholarship. And he needed to make some money, so he worked at Barry O's, a bar. Um, when I left the stadium, I thought I'll just walk over there. It's not that, it didn't look that far on the map originally, and then it was a mile away. It was a point 0.9 miles away. Um, and it was hot. It's always hot in Omaha in June. So I trekked out there, man, it was quite a walk. I mean, I'm a runner. I'm a distance runner. That mile that day was hot. It was, and it's flat, so it's at least that. But um, you know, and I got there. It was after the Florida State loss, and I'd written a story. So it was not right after the loss. It was, at least a couple, 3 hours after the game, probably. And I headed over there, and man, it was full of people. It was full of UVA people. Everybody wearing orange, and this is a bright orange for orange, even. And it was great. I mean, I tried to blend in. I didn't. I hope nobody recognized me because I am not. I have social anxiety, so I'm not very good in crowds. And also, I assume that half of the people watching this and listening, and more than half reading the stories I write, probably hate my guts. So that's fine. So I didn't want to be and there were a couple people who were nice, and that was great. And then I see the shirt hanging up there, so I get one for me and for my wife, O'Connor's Army. That was just I think it was a cool thing. Now it's worthless to me, but it was a cool thing to get back last year. I'm wearing it because I am part of the media complex that helped build up the reputation of Brian O'Connor that now he's pretty much tarnished. Uh, we want to talk about this from every angle, right? Got to. He texted his team Sunday to tell him he was leaving. I mean, I know that, a lot of them are probably scattered to the winds playing summer ball because the team lost last week, right? So we're not playing in the NCAA tournament for the first time in a while. And so, the summer teams that signed our UVA guys, I used to work with a summer team, the Waynesboro Generals in the Valley League. So you actually do sign contracts with these guys. They don't just show up. You don't expect though when you sign a UVA kid that you're going to get him for a while, maybe until mid-season. You don't expect him week one, day one. But there were probably some guys day one playing. I know the Valley League started last week, for example. So here in the Waynesboro, Stanton, and up and down 81 quarter. So yeah, he texted him. He could have called. I've got a text from a buddy who was a track athlete in college at Appalachian State, probably 30 years ago now, and he said his coach after his first year, after his freshman year, the coach left to take the job at Clemson, and similar situation. He took the job in the summertime. He actually went out of his way to call every one of his athletes to let them know. He didn't want them to find out some other way. He called everybody individually and let them know, which meant a lot to the guy, to my friend there. So didn't happen in this case. Um, I started working on this piece Sunday night. I had literally just gotten off the phone with Scott German, and we were going. We talked for 45 minutes about how it makes no sense that Brian O'Connor would take the job at Mississippi State. And then as I hang the phone up, I get a text from a buddy saying, the Wikipedia page for Brian O'Connor's been updated, and it says he's the coach of Mississippi State. What's going on? Um, this was before the plane even left Charlottesville. I mean, when I piecing it all together afterwards. Um, so as I started working on the piece that night, I mean, I probably spent 3 hours writing this lengthy report. Mississippi State put out a press release announcing it, so confirming it. So I'd already gotten to the point where I was almost ready to hit publish, and then had to go back and do some rewrites. He's going to be formally announced as the coach on Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time. I can tell you, the flight tracker site that I found that actually allowed me to track the Mississippi State Learjet. So he flew, the plane left there during the game, during the Mississippi State Florida State game in the Super Regionals. They hadn't lost yet. Their season wasn't over yet. They were winning the game when the plane left. It landed just as the game was ending, sat there for a while, and then Brian gets on and flies back to Starkville. It flew back yesterday. I was actually just checking a fact in a story yesterday, and I wanted to check the timing of the flight again for like the 100th time just to make sure I'm right. And yeah, it flew back yesterday. So I guess he had some things to pick up and probably get back down to Starkville for Thursday night. Um, so head scratcher of a move, yeah. I mean, I know that a lot of folks are up in arms. They're mad at the world. They don't know who to be mad at. Mad at Brian, mad at Carla Williams, mad at the sky. O'Connor won the national title at Virginia in 2015. He had 7 appearances in the College World Series. I didn't even count the Super Regionals. I probably think in my head, 2010 they lost. 2013 there was a loss. I don't think we lost too many Super Regionals, to be honest. But so yeah, a bunch of appearances on the big stage. And he had just signed an extension last June. It was actually the June 13th. It was the day of practice day for UVA, at least, at the College World Series. I was sitting in the press box when we got the press release, just having covered practice. I don't cover a lot of practices, but just the opportunity to be down on the field there was something you can't pass up. You get to walk on the field that the College World Series is played on. It's something I've dreamed about when I was a little league kid, 100 years ago. So just being able to walk on that field was cool. Get up in the press box, and there's a press release waiting for us. So Brian O'Connor signed an extension through 2031. He's getting paid 1.4 million a year. You look that up, that's eighth in the country. Uh, and it was more than what Mississippi State was paying its previous coach. I have not, as of this recording, seen what Mississippi State has pledged to pay Brian O'Connor. May have to do a FOIA request, if that's the case, because and I won't be the only one. I'm sure the media down at Starkville and around down there will want to know that as well. But he was making more at UVA than what Mississippi State was paying his previous guy, Chris Lemonis, who had just won the national title there 4 years ago, and got fired. So it'll show a lot about how much pressure there is to win down there. Brian O'Connor's leaving a place that would never have fired him, would have endured whatever it had to endure if his winning ways went away as his career wound down. He's going to a place where 2 weekend losing streak could get you fired. Anyway, that's life. And he's taking with him Kevin McMullen, his longtime assistant, associate head coach, his assistant coach Matt Kirby. I think he just came on full time. Was it 2023? He's taken Justin Armistead, his basically his director of baseball operations, the guy who does all the hard work behind the scenes. Not taking Drew Dickinson, the pitching coach, which is interesting to point out. And so it's quite the about face. Just 3 weeks ago, not long after his name had emerged as a possible candidate in this Mississippi State coaching search, he addressed directly a question about his interest in the job. And he said, this is the quote. I'll read the quote. It's nothing I have any control over, but it's an honor that people think that much about what's been done in this baseball program, and that's all it is. It's all a result of consistent success we've had in this baseball program. If it's about developing players and getting to Omaha, why is there another job that's any better? Because that's all we care about. We care about developing the players, winning, and running an elite program that they enjoy being a part of, and that will set them up for success in the rest of their lives. That was May 8th. As it turns out, and I'll go into more detail on this a little bit later, we know that he met with Mississippi State on April 30th, 2 days after the job came open, after they fired Chris Lemonis. They did, of course, hire an interim. But yeah, he had met with he met with him 2 days later, in 8 days before he made that statement. The strength of the answer seemed to make the point moot to a point where he wasn't even asked about his interest in that job, or Mississippi State's interest in him at his postseason presser last Tuesday, so a week ago today. because he had answered the question and he said, no, I'm not interested. And he had done that in the past. Texas reached out to him in 2014. No interest. 2021, LSU reached out. Paul Maneri, the guy who was his mentor, guy gave him his first job as a paid baseball coach. He was pitching coach at Notre Dame under Maneri. Maneri went on to LSU, had a great run there. Was planning to step down in 2021, did step down in 2021, and he personally called Brian O'Connor, who he talked with all the time anyway. Brian O'Connor told us this afterwards, and said to Brian O'Connor, I want you to replace me. He told his mentor no to taking the best job in college baseball. LSU leads the nation in attendance. They're the only, and I'm not exaggerating, they're the only college baseball program that actually turns a profit. Everybody else loses money. They actually make a little bit of money. It's not a lot, but they make a little bit of money. Here's how good LSU baseball is and how their fan base is. I'm at the College World Series last year. I mentioned that again. I had been there in 2023. LSU was there in 2023 as well. Paul Skeens, that group. Um, 2024, LSU's not there. They still had a huge fan contingent there. Now the fans had bought. I mean, they assumed they were going to go to the World Series every year, so I'm sure a lot of fans just get the same hotel rooms every year and that kind of thing. But okay, so there is a contest there that you may have seen if you watch College World Series coverage on ESPN. They talk about there's a bar across the street, and I'm forgetting the name of it, where they sell Jello shots, uh, and basically they have a contest at this bar. You can get orange colored Jello shots for the UVA team, etc. Okay, flavored, the colors and everything according to the team. Um, LSU wasn't there last year, but they were still like second or third in the number of Jello shots. There were so many of those folks there that this bar actually said, "Okay, we'll do an LSU one." I mean, these people, that's the fan base. That's what he turned down. He turned down an opportunity to be part of that. Um, so he did that. Now he's leaving for a place. He's left for a place that, according to the Sportico.com finance database, this is not a number I pulled out of my butt. This is a number that's a number. Sportico gets the numbers from all the 990s basically filed with the IRS by the athletics departments and puts them into this easily digestible database. You can look up by sport, you can look up revenues, expenses, etc. So Mississippi State last year in the SEC was ninth in the SEC in spending. Um, you wonder why, the coach after 4 years after winning the national title has a couple of seasons where he doesn't even make the tournament. They're not spending the money there relative to their peers to be competitive. Now they spend 500,000 a year more than Virginia does. Virginia's 6 million a year that they spend, as of last year's numbers, would translate to second in the ACC. So, yeah, Mississippi State has a little bit more money, literally a little bit more money. 500,000. Doing the quick math in my head, that's 8% more than Virginia spends. So, but they are ninth out of the 13 schools in the SEC that are public schools that report their numbers. You can easily say 10th. Vanderbilt's a private school, and they're spending more on baseball than anybody out there. Um, he's going to a place where he's going from being the big guy, one of the two big guys, to being one of the small fries. So congratulations for that. Um, I in this piece I decided, and I'm gonna talk more about. Um, I decided to. Well, I'll jump around here a little bit. Uh, I was getting ready to go into the coaches who look like guys could be the guys, right? But let's do a couple of other things first. One of the reasons that O'Connor left, we're told. I mean, we don't because Brian, he's never said this publicly. I know that back in the fall and into the early winter, there was a lot of talk about a talk he had given privately to the money folks, saying, "Here's what I here's what I need to be successful." Then it emerged that there was a call with same folks during the regular season where he made that case, and some details of that got out. I first heard this again back. It was probably December when I first heard about this. Scott German's trying to tell me, "Hey, I'm hearing all about this is going on behind the scenes. It sounds like Brian might be ready to leave if he doesn't get what he's wanting." I mean, so Scott German, he's got good instincts as far as this goes because he was also the guy who got me on the train of what happens. It sounds like Tony Bennett might be thinking about leaving. Let's start looking into that. Um, the the sticking points, it seems, where I think I mentioned earlier about Brian O'Connor when he had to work at a bar because baseball players didn't get full scholarships, and in fact, no one will start next year having the ability to get a full scholarship. The way college baseball has worked, you can give out a total of 11.7 full scholarships. I don't know why the point seven, but it just is what it is. 11.7 full scholarships to your program. If you have 36 guys on your roster, you divide that out. I mean, and you don't have to do it equally. You can do it equally if you want to, but the way it tends to work is I'll give you point 0.6 of a scholarship. I'll give you point 0.8 of a scholarship, whatever the case may be. Um, and that's how you kind of were bidding for guys. I know of one player who ended up making it to AAA with the San Diego Padres and it was on UVA's radar, a guy named Chris Huffman, um, who ended up going to JMU, but he got an offer for a scholarship from UVA. His father told me this story that was 25% of a full scholarship. And the reason he went to JMU was they offered him, I think it was point 0.7, 70% of a full scholarship, something like that. So, um, that was the bidding back then. I want a guy. Um, how much do you want him, right? So now you can fund up to 34, but you can't have over 34 players. So you can't, UVA this year, for example, had 36 guys on their roster. Next year, you can only have 34, but you can give 34 scholarships. You don't have to, but you can. And so the word that got out was Brian O'Connor thought he needed 34 scholarships. Mississippi State apparently is saying that they will fund 34 scholarships. They're also, from what I'm understanding, I don't know that any of this is official. It's just, that they're willing to commit 10% of their house settlement money. That's the money that the settlement actually still hasn't been signed. It's been sitting there for months. But the settlement in the House versus NCAA case essentially allowing the NCAA or forcing the NCAA to allow its member schools to pay up to $20.6 million in salaries to its student athletes. And you can use that money however you want to. You can give 100% to football, 100% to men's basketball, 100% to tiddlywinks as far as I'm concerned. Um, but you can divide it out however you want to. You spend it however you want to, at least now. We'll see, especially when Democrats get back in power in the White House in a couple of years, if they don't rewrite some Title IX regulations to impact that a little bit more. But in the here and now, you can give you can divide that out however you want to. Apparently, Mississippi State has decided to commit 10% of that money, so that's $2 million, $2.06 million. Um, and if they fund those extra scholarships all the way up to the 34 limit, um, I'm putting an estimate on that. Okay, if you say 50,000 per scholarship, I don't know what the cost is there. It may be cheaper because Mississippi State is Mississippi State. Um, but if you put a $50,000 per price tag, just as an argument, 22.3 additional scholarships will be about $1.1 million. Um, UVA apparently was only willing to one, they're not willing to do the 10% thing. They're from again, this is nothing official with this. This is just what the accumulated wisdom from outside has decided is the case. 75% of the money to football, 20% to men's basketball. Those are the two sports that make money. Everything else in college sports loses money. Baseball loses money, a lot of money every year. But and then 5% for the rest. And so the other coaches are fighting for, outside of men's basketball and football, they're fighting for a sliver of that 5%, or whatever they can get. So, um, uh, Carla Williams was apparently is interested in 25 scholarships, which is nine less than 34, $450,000 again, using $50,000 as sort of just the placeholder for what a value of a scholarship is. And a sliver of that 5%. I mean, if he were to get half of that, or if the next coach were to get half of that, 2.5 percent of 20 million would be about 500,000, right? So, right, am I doing the math right on that? I think I am. So, 500,000 plus, that 450 is about 1 million extra that UVA athletics is willing to commit to baseball going forward. Mississippi State's apparently willing to commit 3 million. And so, that's the amount of money that we're talking. The difference in the amount of money. Suddenly, Virginia then goes from spending 6 million a year on baseball to around 7 million a year on baseball. But Mississippi State's going to go from 6.5 to 9.5. Now, you got to feel though that other SEC schools are going to, be. I mean, they're already behind the eight ball in the SEC in spending. So all that's going to do is maybe catch them up from ninth place to fifth or sixth. Um, and uh, in the ACC, I mean, Virginia is second right now. If they're willing to give a million more, they may maintain that second place status in the ACC. Um, and the other part of that reality is, okay, do you need the question, do you need 34 guys? And I did this first with just looking at the UVA roster. I looked at the stats and the roster and the stats the last 5 seasons, 2021 through 2025. 2020 being a cutoff, 2020 was the COVID season. We played 18 games. And I didn't want to go too far back because, eventually I've got to do other things. But just looking at 5 years of UVA baseball stats and rosters, it came up to, one year O'Connor used 23 guys as regulars. And what I defined as regulars, guys who get more than 25 at bats and more than 10 innings pitched on the mound. Uh, and that might even be a little bit of a weird cutoff because, the guys who are getting just, probably should have cut it off at 50. If you're getting 25 at bats, how many of those are midweek games? If you're getting, you know, 10 to 15 innings, how many of those again are midweek games where you could have maybe you're treating those almost as developmental games. Um, but in that case anyway, 23 was the low number, 28 was the high number in the last 5 years for the number of guys who he used for those relatively low standards, 25 at bats, 10 innings. I then went and looked at basically I looked at uh, several of the teams in the SEC. Texas and Tennessee, Vanderbilt came to mind. Texas A&M I looked at as well. Programs who are successful. Um, the same numbers applied. It was 24 to 28 for looking at just this year's numbers for those teams. And so, um, 34 scholarships. When you use an average of 25, 26, 27 guys, do you think that you're using those for developmental purposes? If you were, if this was like a big league team drafting guys and then putting them in the minor leagues and maintaining team control of them through the minor leagues, and then they get to the big leagues, you got 6 years of team control over them. That's one thing. Yeah, major league teams can stockpile guys. You put a guy on the 40-man roster protecting from the Rule 5 draft, that's your guy. He's not going anywhere. College sports right now, college athletics right now, the way it works, they're 1 year contracts. Uh, the guy sitting on the end of the bench there who, gets less than 25 at bats, less than 50 at bats, less than 10 innings pitched, or less than 20 innings pitched. you know, thought he was a starter and they use him as a long reliever on midweeks, and he gets 20 innings that way. Those guys are thinking, where can I go next year and get some actual ABs, some actual IPs? Um, and so you're sitting guys on the end of the bench for what? So if you're using 25, 26, or 27 guys, and you got 34 guys on scholarship, you're committing 350 to $450,000 for what purpose? I mean, that's what you're spending for what purpose? Those guys aren't going to help your ball club win a game. And more to the point, when you're losing money, the average Power Five baseball program, college baseball program, loses $2.8 million a year. You don't have to believe me, but I'm telling you, that's the facts. UVA last year lost $3.4 million. Mississippi State lost 3.1. They're both above average in terms of losing money in baseball. Now all of a sudden, UVA is committing, they're losing 3.4. They're committing next year, Carla Williams is committing to losing $4.4 million a year. Mississippi State, which loses $3.1 million a year, is committing to losing $6.1 million next year. At an athletics program at Mississippi State that lost, as an overall department, lost $8 million last year. So they're committing to losing even more money next year. You know, what sense does this make? What sense does it make to have 6 to 10 guys sitting on the end of your bench and not helping your team, paying for them to get a free ride? Um, Mom and dad are probably emailing you all the time saying, "Why is my kid not getting ABs or IPs?" Um, and then it's just adding to the amount of money you lose. That's what he left for. I don't know that that makes any sense, but nothing else makes any more sense as far as how this goes. The next question was, and I'm sure for you, as you're watching this, is who is the next coach? I don't have an answer on that. I hate to say. I was the go-to guy. AFP was the go-to place this past basketball season when Tony Bennett stepped down on October 18th, which we told you was going to happen back in May. Um, so we gave you a 6 month head start on that, even though most of us, including me, even though I told you it was going to happen, did not prepare for that day. Um, but Virginia, yeah, had 5 months to hire a new basketball coach. Carlo Williams made Ron Sanchez the interim. He coached the season and then made a change at the end. And they had all this time. We started picking up on the search committee's work in December, and our first report on this, December 27th of 2024, gave you a short list of names. At the top of that list was Ryan Odom. Ryan Odom ended up being the coach. I don't have any insight into this process. I hate to say that. I hate to admit that. This process is truncated, obviously. Um, the fact that instead of 5 months, Carla Williams has a couple of days, perhaps, to make a decision and get a new person in place is obviously very difficult. She said in a quote in a press release that the statement that was sent out yesterday that she wasn't told by Brian O'Connor that he was leaving until Sunday night. Now, I don't doubt that she didn't get the final word that he was leaving until Sunday night. She had to have lots of inklings um, that he was leaving. Um, so uh, I would be surprised if as early as May 1st, when the rumors started getting out that O'Connor was a top target at Mississippi State, and we know we met with them on April 30th, that she wouldn't have been at least putting together a list. Um, and so I will tell you what other people are saying, and then I'll tell you what list I've come up with. What other people are saying is Baseball America. Let's see. I got to scroll down my list here. Baseball America has the Duke coach Chris Pollard as their favorite to be the new coach, and I say their favorite. I don't think it's their wish list. And I have to qualify these things. Sometimes you see a writer or blogger say, here are the coaching candidates, and it's a wish list. And then sometimes you get, as in the case of us reporting on the UVA basketball coaching search, it wasn't our wish list, it was the search committee's list that we were reporting. Um, Baseball America has, yeah, Chris Pollard. D1 Baseball had the Wake Forest coach, and I gotta pull his name up here again real quick. I don't have it. Walter. Oh, I we don't play them, so I don't have his name committed to memory here. Tom Walter, yeah. Tom Walter was D1 Baseball's the reporting there. Kendall Rogers had him as had Tom Walter as the guy. He's probably not the guy now. You might have seen the news about the anti-gay slur. He, I'm not laughing at the fact he did a slur, just that he might not be the weight coach in very very much longer. But during in the dugout last night during the Super Regional game that they lost to Tennessee, I was actually watching that game, but only half watching it. I was doing some work and had the game on the background. So it was audible when you watch the replay, but not very audible. It was very clear from also watching the clip. Just you don't have to be a good lip reader to see that he said what he said. Again, he's not on the list anymore. Let's just say that. I'm not giving that as an official, but he ain't on the list anymore. Um, so yeah, Pollard is intriguing for lots of reasons. Obviously at Duke, I mean, he's in the Super Regionals this weekend. So if he's the guy, he's not getting the job until after they're done. They may go to Omaha. So that may be a complicating factor here. But He's not only he's at Duke. We don't know any of their budget numbers because Duke's a private school. Let's just make a uh, very safe guess that he doesn't have a lot of resources down there. I actually went to a Duke game, Duke baseball game by chance. My wife and I were going down. We went last year to the Duke UVA basketball game in Cameron, and it was a warm. It was like March 2nd. But it was a really warm day down there. And the baseball stadium, everything, all their athletics are right there in one area. The Cameron is looks like a just a education building. It doesn't even look like a arena, but it's there. The football stadium is right across the walkway. There is a soccer lacrosse field beside that, and then the baseball and track are on the complex as well. So it's easy. And so we're walking around, and there's free admission to the baseball game. They were playing. It was an early March game, so it was they had somebody in for the weekend. And anyway, and we wanted a hot dog, so we wanted to get a hot dog. And oh yeah, there's a baseball game going on, so let's watch a baseball game. The field there, it's as nice as it can be for Duke, but it's Valley League quality. It's a high school field. With a little bit of adornment compared to a high school field, but not much. So the resources there are not. I can't imagine he's getting paid anywhere near where Brian O'Connor was. Nowhere near. Brian O'Connor was getting paid 1.4 million. There's no way Chris Pollard's getting paid that down there at Duke. So Miami made him run at him 2 years ago when their job came open, and he stayed at Duke. So we'll see. But the Baseball America people are saying that's Carla's top choice. We'll see. I don't know how they get any word out of Carla. Nobody gets any word out of Carla. The other names I came up with, and all I did for this was I looked at Sportico.com again, the database, the baseball budgets, and then I cross-referenced that to the list of the top 25 paid coaches. And then and then looked at their resumes. Spent way too much time on this on Sunday. Admittedly, I did this Sunday morning into the early afternoon, waiting for the bad news that a lot of us assumed was going to happen. As soon as Mississippi State lost, that they'd be naming a new coach, and that coach would be Brian O'Connor. So I didn't want to wait until after that to do a list. I spent my time on Sunday. What else do you do? Oh yeah, there's a lot of things to do on Sunday, but I did this. The names I came up with then, okay, again, budget and salary and people who could be realistic. Pollard, don't know those numbers for Tom Walter at Wake Forest, another private school, could not know those numbers. Mark Wizakowski at Oregon was on the top of my list, not for any reason other than I did this list in terms of top to bottom, the budgets they manage. Okay, so UVA again, $6 million budget, and we were paying Brian O'Connor 1.4 million. Mark Wizakowski manages a $5.3 million budget, $700,000 salary. So he manages a budget close to what uh, O'Connor had access to. His salary is half of that. And he is 206 and 106 in 5 seasons in Oregon with two super regional appearances. He was a host this past weekend, and his team lost. So he does have that as well. Wes Johnson at Georgia. The budget down at Georgia is 5.1 million. And his salary is 700,000. So another guy managing a close to the same kind of budget as O'Connor with half the salary. 86 and 33, just 2 seasons at Georgia as the head coach. He's a former Minnesota Twins pitching coach. There's some attraction thing here. Minnesota MLB pitching coach for 4 years. Also since the pitching coach at Mississippi State, Arkansas, and LSU. A lot of folks have been emailing me this name, Nick Mangione, excuse me, at Kentucky. 293 and 190 in 9 seasons there at UK. Two trips to the Super Regionals. He was at last year's College World Series. $4.9 million budget, and his salary 875,000. So we could bump up his salary, give him a bigger budget. That's the point I'm making with all these names. So just so you know. Mitch Canham at Oregon State. He's in the Super Regionals as well. Youngest coach on his list at 40. So that's something. If you want to hire a guy that you think you might be able to keep for a while. 217 and 99 in 7 seasons at Oregon State, two super regionals, now three, because since I wrote this story, he's added another one. So I'm reading a lot from my story. Budget 4.6 million and salary 625,000. So again, we give him more money, both for himself and to work with. I'm not sure about this one. Josh Holiday at Oklahoma State. I believe that they're also in the Super Regionals. That will be his third Super Regional. He's been at Oklahoma State for 13 years. He's 468 and 251. Salary of 770,000. His budget 4.6 million. So again, we can give him access to more money and pay him more. Dan Fisher at Kansas. I put this name on just because he was reportedly one of the candidates at for the Mississippi State job. He's been at Kansas for 3 years, 99 and 72. Only one NCAA tournament appearance, budget of 4.1 million, salary of 530,000. He was a JUCO coach for 5 seasons and won 249 games there. He's also been an assistant at Dallas Baptist and LSU, so two good programs there. He worked at JUCO background and then the KU background. I'm not sure about the fit there. Scott German he texts me that guy's name like 10 times a day, so we'll see. I was pointing to my phone. The name outside of Pollard that intrigues me the most. Now, so I said I've been getting emails about Nick Mingione. I got one email about Cliff Godwin, and I couldn't wait to get that one. I couldn't wait to hit reply on that one because, yeah, this is the guy that gets my attention the most. Godwin at East Carolina, he is 431 and 213 in 11 seasons, four trips to the Super Regional. I think he's five. No, he lost to Coastal, so he didn't get to the Supers this year. Budget of 3.8 million and a salary of 600,000. I mean, these are all guys. This is a list of, including Pollard, 8 guys that uh, all have won games. I'm looking at this list. Super regionals. I think every name one here has been to at least one, and that's only because Wes Johnson's only been coaching for 2 years. In the case of the guys with more, well, Fitzgerald not. The other 6 guys, multiple super regional appearances. We've got, let's see, how many College World Series among this group? Nick Mingione, um, Josh Holiday. That's it. So 6 guys who've been to multiple super regionals, one who's only been to one, but in 2 years, and then Pollard, super regional experience, and then could be on his way to a World Series this year. So anyway, the point to that exercise being we have the money to spend. We spent 6 million this year. Sounds like we're committing to spend 7 million next year. Um, and we have the facilities. Disharoon Park, one of the nicest parks in college baseball. It's not as big as Mississippi State's that holds 15,000. It's not as big as LSU's. Those are the top two in attendance on an annual basis. They both average over 10,000 per game. Um, I had a Mississippi State fan alum write to ask, well, what's y'all's problem up there? You have this stadium and you only average 4,400 a game. And I wrote back to say, well, weather's a little bit of an issue. Playing in February, March, and early April, especially, when a game starts or at any point during the game, if the temperature drops below 45, the loudspeaker they're making an announcement, free coffee and free hot chocolate. I wrote that back in the email, and the guy wrote me back and said, oh, that's fair. Um, they don't have that problem down south, right? If you're down South Carolina, North Carolina, but especially South Carolina and below, you don't have the weather issues we have here. But in April and May and June, place packs, and it's a great environment. Miss it this year that we didn't get any postseason action. It's a wonderful place to watch a baseball game, especially in the postseason. And so we have that. We have the University of Virginia, a degree from the University of Virginia as part of our appeal. Um, we will get a good coach. We'll get a great coach. We're going to get a guy who's going to say, I can't wait to have $7 million a year to spend on baseball because I have half that. Um, and I still went to College World Series and Super Regionals. Imagine what I can do when I get a lot more money to be able to spend, and I can sell the University of Virginia to my players. Brian O'Connor, he doesn't want to do that anymore. That's his choice. And so, that's on him. Uh, so we'll do the best we can I'm still trying to work the phones and texts and emails to see if I can learn more about, where this stands, and we will see. If you have any questions for me, any comments, anything else, please feel free to drop me a line at chris@augustafreepress.com. You can also, follow us on Facebook. I prefer Blue Sky. I do have a quiet page on Twitter just because There's a lot of traffic that still comes from Twitter, but if you DM me there, I may not see it. I don't really look at that account too much. But anyway, love to hear from you. Love to hear what your thoughts are, your questions are, your insights are. If you have any information to share, yeah, that too. So, in any case, it's been great talking with you, and let's go Who's.